Hey everybody, Jeppy here, and today we're seeing which attacking operators newer players should be buying first. I made a tier list on what I believe to be the best attacking operators that newer players will have a lot of success with and also be a huge help to the team as well. I ranked these attackers based on the effectiveness and the simplicity of their gadget, while also taking into effect their overall fragging potential. Now, I made a defender video like this a couple days ago, ranking the defenders that newer players should be buying first here in Siege. And so after you're done watching this video, make sure to go check that one out so that you newer players can see which defenders you should be buying first. The link for that video will be in the description below. Now remember to leave a like if you enjoyed or learned anything from this video, and with the intro out of the way, let's get straight into this list. Okay, so we broke down this tier list into 4 tiers. At the very top we have must-haves, below that we have get after must-haves, below that is consider these last, and then at the very bottom we have get alpha packs before these operators. Now this tier list is broken down into basically how effective and simple their gadget can be and how easy it kind of is to get kills as well. We're gonna start off at the very bottom and work our way up. The operators in this section are going to be Glaz, Lion, Fuse, Blitz, and Yana. Glaz, I mean, he is kind of bad. I mean, by kind of bad, I mean very bad. You should honestly get a elite skid for another operator or alpha packs before you get Glaz. I don't think he's very new player friendly at all. It's really hard to have success with Glaz. You need a lot of coordination with the smoke grenades and to get a plant off, and to cover the plant with your gadget, so it's kind of hard. I don't recommend Glaz for newer players. Coming up after that is going to be Lion. Now Lion used to be brokenly overpowered when he first came out, especially in Pro League, but he's just nowhere near as good as what he used to be. His gun is actually really easy to use, and he's got a pretty good DMR as well. But on the other hand, his gadget needs a lot of coordination. You're just not going to get that in your typical ranked match, especially if you're a newer player. And it's a lot harder to be coordinated with Lion now, and he's not really that useful. So that's why I put Lion down at the very bottom. Get alpha packs before these operators. Speaking of get alpha packs before these operators, next person coming up is Fuse. Now Fuse, I don't know what it is about Fuse, but newer players love to use him. After about like level 20, people start realizing what they should be looking out for. If they hear a cluster charge going off, they know to vacate the area. And after about, he's really good in the early rounds or the early levels. But after that, like, Fuse is kind of pointless to bring. In some situations, he's kind of good above the objective if you're trying to clear out utility. But other than that, he's so situational that you're just wasting your renown, honestly. And he's a 3 armor on attack, which doesn't necessarily do well. Now, about a year and a half ago, Blitz was actually really good and kind of overpowered. But right now, he's just terrible. His ADS speed to take his pistol out from moving a shield to the side is so slow. He might actually be kind of decent to go up against newer players, but he actually does require some skill as well. You got to pull it off. You got to make sure your flanks and you're not exposing yourself too much. So that's why I'm putting Blitz at the very bottom. Coming up next is Yana. Now Yana she has good guns. Like, she's got the G3 with an ACOG, which is pretty good. Now her gadget has a lot to be desired. It's not very good. It's kind of basically like another drone that's on recharge, and I could see where if you were to trade out her hologram to kind of get the refrag, but I don't think she's very useful for newer players. I mean, I know I never use her. Her pick rate is super low and her win rate isn't really that great. I bet her most redeeming factor is the fact that she has frag grenades, but other than that, I don't think she's very good. Okay, now that we cleared the very bottom list, let's move 1 tier up to consider these operators last. So these are operators that you should be kind of saving your renown for at the very end. There's a lot of operators that are much better than them, and they might require some skill as well, where sometimes you might be doing more harm than good. And so these operators are going to be Ying, Dokkaebi, Capitao, Kali, and Bing. Okay, so to start off with Ying, as a new player, you're probably more likely to flash your teammates than you are the enemy, so I could see where there'd be a lot of issues there. Her gun actually isn't that hard to control. It used to have a decent amount of recoil. I don't think newer players are going to have that much success with Ying. I don't know, who knows? It's been a while since I've been a new player. So I don't know. What do you guys think in the comments? I had a really hard time with Ying, and I was thinking like maybe consider these last or bump it up to get after must-haves. She's got smoke grenades, so that's really good. So what do you guys think? Coming up next on consider these last is going to be Dokkaebi. Now I would put Dokkaebi 1 tier up if she had a better primary weapon. The DMR, while it has no recoil, for newer players it's going to be a little hard to win those gunfights if you're limited to the DMR, which is a semi-automatic weapon that's more so required for medium to long range. Her gadget is actually pretty good. It's a global ability. All all you gotta do is press a button and you're doing a lot of things, but it does require some coordination with your team to make sure that you're really using her gadget effectively. And yeah, so I think this is a really good spot for Dokkaebi. Coming up next is gonna be Capitao. Now Capitao's gun isn't the greatest, but his firebolt and his smoke bolt, they're pretty good, but you have to be well coordinated. You gotta be really exposed. I feel like his gadget's very clunky. Now I just don't see a lot of newer players playing Capitao, and there might be a reason to that. I just think he requires a lot of coordination and teamwork. Coming up next is gonna be Callie. Callie's actually pretty good, especially with the new addition to her secondary weapon, but I don't think newer players are gonna have a really good time with Callie because she's probably one of the hardest attackers to use. Like honestly, you really have to land your shots. Sometimes, you know, you're not guaranteed to get the down but not out if you shoot an enemy anymore. If you're not guaranteed, you have to like really be aiming up on the chest. If they have rook armor, you're pretty much just gonna down them anyways. So there's a lot of times where you fire a shot off, you might even hit them, but since they have an automatic weapon, they're gonna be able to kill you before you get the second shot off. Now our secondary weapon's pretty good. Gadget is slightly clunky, and I just don't think newer players are gonna have the easiest time with it. Last up, I'll consider these last is going to be Finka. Now Finka actually could be pretty good. Now her guns aren't the best. Like don't get me wrong, her guns aren't the best, but her ability actually helps out the rest of the team a lot. And I was thinking like overall support, Finka kind of does more for the entire team than kind of any other operator, like to be able to boost everybody, health and all that good stuff. But I decided to leave her down here because her fragging potential really is bad. If you're a newer player, you're gonna get very frustrated with the game if you're not able to get those gunfights. So while she is a very good support player, anything else besides support, and there's a lot of operators better than her. Moving up a section in the tier list, and we're finding ourselves at the get after must-haves. Now these are operators that after the must-have section at the very end and then the top of the list, these are operators you should be considering first if you're a newer player, and really if you're a veteran player as well. And these operators are going to be Buck, Maverick, Montaigne, Nomad, Gridlock, Jackal, Nook, Amaru, and Black. Now starting off first with Buck, I really considered having him in must-haves, but his recoil was really hard to control, and newer players aren't going to have the advanced map knowledge required for Buck to know exactly where the vertical play is needed. And with the loss of his frag grenades, that kind of lowers his fragging potential a lot as well. And just overall, his gun's hard to control. Buck's really good, and for older players, he's definitely a must-have, but for newer players, I'm going to leave him down at the get after. Okay, so coming up next is going to be Maverick, and now I considered putting him down a tier because he does require an insane amount of skill to use, but really, as I thought about it, you know, all a new player would have to do is kind of just, you know, use his blowtorch to put a little hole at the top of a reinforced wall, throw a grenade in there, and then get the Cades or the Bandits, or the Bandit is bandit tricking. And now if there's not a Jaeger or a Womai or something, those grenades are really effective, and his guns are pretty good, but he does require a decent amount of skill. That's why I thought about dropping him down one, but I ultimately decided on leaving him in this section. Okay, so coming up next on the list is going to be Montaigne. Now Montaigne is really good for newer players, or players who are not necessarily getting the most kills right now. So say you're having an off day, or you're new to the game and you're not landing your shots, you're kind of hurting your team. Play a Montaigne and just get in the way and do callouts. Now I know you're not improving your gun skill by playing Montaigne because you're just not getting in as many gunfights, but being a force to be reckoned with and being a really good support player, there's a lot of good that can happen to Montaigne. You just gotta watch out that you're not swaying back and forth, getting TK'd in the back of the head by your teammates, and you gotta make sure you're not overexposing yourself as well. But other than that, I think Montaigne is a pretty good spot on this list. Okay, so coming up next is gonna be Nomad, but where she really shines is the air jabs, her gadget. Doesn't matter if you're solo queuing or in a 5-stack, her air jabs really help cover the flank. There's just a lot of good that can come from Nomad, and yeah, I just think there's a pretty good spot for her. Okay, so coming up next is gonna be Gridlock, and now she does pretty much the same exact thing that Nomad does, where it's covering flanks. She just does it a little differently. Now, her gadget may not be as effective as an air jab from Nomad, but I do feel like her gun is a little bit easier and better to use. So that's why I recommend, I would actually recommend Gridlock over Nomad for newer players, but I felt I had to put her in the same category as well because they pretty much do the same exact thing. Coming in next is going to be Jackal. Now Jackal has probably the best attacker weapon in the game, DPS wise. It's pretty easy to control. He has a really good secondary with the shotgun. The smoke grenades, there's a lot going for Jackal. Now when he's not being banned, not much more to say about Jackal. I mean, he's just really good. His gadget's pretty good as well. And yeah, yeah, consider buying Jackal. Okay, so coming up next is Nook. Now I really struggled if I was gonna put Nook in the same section or move her down one, because in the newer ranks and the newer players, not necessarily gonna be seeing a lot of defenders using their cameras very much or playing operators for their intel like you would at higher ranks. So her gadget wouldn't be as impactful as say in a higher rank, but the fact that she can still sneak up on enemies is a really good thing, and she has frag grenades as well. I just did a video about Nook as well, so go check that out. Next up is gonna be Amaru. Now Amaru just received a really good buff where the window doesn't break as soon as the grappling hook hits it, and then also her ready time, so as soon as her feet hit the floor, she brings her G8 a lot easier. So Amaru is actually pretty good now. Now the one thing with Amaru is she's very likely to die at the very beginning of the round. You'll see a lot of attackers, especially newer players, go and just repel up to it, and then usually there's going to be a defender ready for it. If you are going to play Amaru and you have a window planned out what you're going to go through, make sure in the prep phase to leave a drone by the window, just so that before you grapple up into the window, you can quickly hop on your drone and see if there's any enemies. That way you know you're going to be safe when you do get inside the building. Coming up next on Get After must-haves is going to be Blackbeard. Now Blackbeard is actually really good for newer players because it just gives you the extra time to make sure to win those gunfights because your head's going to be covered. Everyone's going to hate you for playing Blackbeard, but that's okay. Newer players can just repel up on the side of the building, but yeah, everyone's going to hate you. Okay, so now we're at the very top of the list. These are operators that you should be buying first. You know, on your brand new account, you should make sure you have all these operators, maybe besides operators that are really expensive. But yeah, this is the must-have section, and the must-have section is going to have Thatcher, Twitch, Zofia, Thermite, Hibana, Ashe, Sledge, IQ, and not much to say about Thatcher. I actually put a lot of new players on Thatcher because he's really easy to use. I just say, hey, throw an EMP grenade right there on that wall. And yeah, I mean, his guns are really good. I just think Thatcher's really new player friendly. Okay, so moving on, we find ourselves at Twitch. I still think she's a must-have. Really high tier operator. She does require a little bit more skill to use now that her recoil is higher. Her gadget, you know, the Twitch drone, you have to make sure you really say that in the prep phase, so you're using it for the action phase a lot more efficiently. But other than that, I still think Twitch is really, really good, and newer players would have a good time with her as well. Next up is going to be Zofia. Now, Zofia is just really good. Shoots like a laser, hardly any recoil, and she's got soft breaches. She's got crowd control. Just a lot going. Zofia, she can burn ADSs, and I think she's very new player friendly. Yeah. By Zofia. Another really new player friendly and essential aspect to any team is going to be Thermite. Thermite's gun, really easy to use, but his gun isn't necessarily what makes Thermite so important, is what his gadget is. The OG hard breacher, and besides Ace, you know, you can make a case for Ace. No one else can do it as good as Thermite. You just buy Thermite. You know you need him, you know. Now, one of Thermite's really good friends is Hibana, and she's coming up next on this list. Now, Hibana's gun's really good. It does have that really small mag, and so that might be a detriment to new players. She's really good at opening up hatches and opening up walls from far away. She's got stun grenades, which mesh really well with Hibana, and she's a 3-speed, so I think there's a lot going for Hibana. So I think she's definitely still a must-have. Okay, so coming up next is going to be Ashe. Now, Ashe is, of course, like the queen of rushes and really probably the best fragger in the game. Super small head hitbox. The R4C with a hollow is still really, really good. And not much to say about Ashe besides, like, if you wanted to frag out and get kills, Ashe is your girl. Okay, so is there any other attacker that's as newer player friendly as Sledge? I mean, his gadget is the most basic thing you could possibly use. It's literally a sledgehammer that breaks walls or floors. Like, that's it. He has frag grenades. Honestly, Sledge should probably be your very first operator you buy. I would say without doubt Sledge, and then probably Thatcher. Second to last is going to be IQ. Now, IQ is really good. She has 3 really solid primary weapon choices, but her gadget, you know, it's not necessarily the best for newer players. Now, we do expect that the GA is probably gonna lose its angle grip, but if you're a new player, I would use it now because it's overpowered, and then once they do nerf the GA, just move back to the 5.52 commando. Also a really good entry fragger and good at identifying where the traps are or where the bomb site is. Take out her gadget and then she could see the bombs, and then it'll highlight it for the entire team. So that's a really good aspect for new players and new teams. All right, last but not least is going to be Ace. Now, Ace is the best of both worlds from Thermite and Hibana. He can pretty much make a hole as big as Thermite while being at a safe distance like Hibana. You got the AK-12, you can slap an angle grip or a foregrip on it, whatever you want to do, put an ACOG on it, and yeah, there's not much. I mean, he's got smoke grenades too. Ace is all around a very versatile, good, just complete package, and you really can't go wrong really ever playing Ace. All right, everybody, so that completes the list. I'm really glad you stuck around to the end of the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Would you move anything around? Would you have the operators and the must-haves? Would you bump any operators up or down? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe with notifications if you're new. Now, with all that being said, Jeppy out.